I felt a gaze on me and looked up. It was Arhin, the princess. She smiled and waved at me. Is she calling me? I was doubtful because there were so many people around. Then she opened her mouth. Leviathan, come here. She was calling me indeed, but how could I get through this crowd? As I thought that, the people's eyes turned to me and they slowly made way. They realized that Arhin was calling me and they moved aside one after another. He's the one who saved us. Yeah, he defeated the monster in the square. As I walked along the path that opened up among the crowd, I heard them murmuring. I felt a mix of embarrassment and pleasure. After a short walk, I arrived in front of Arhin. But when did they get here? On both sides of Arhin, Zane and Troy were standing. Zane saw me and waved his hand with a bright smile. Troy also winked at me. Leviathan and Zane, Troy. Arhin called out our names from the makeshift wooden stage. Then Zane and Troy rushed to my side. Thank you. We could move forward because of you. Arhin said sincerely and seriously. I met her eyes and nodded. No, it's nothing. Actually, it's true. It's all thanks to me. All the people here owe their lives to you. That's right, it's because I ran around like crazy, but I swallowed the words that were about to burst out. Yes, you saved us. You saved my daughter too. Thank you, and thank you, princess. The people kept thanking us. Their greetings continued until Arhin raised her hand. When she gestured, the surroundings became quiet. Then she thanked us again. I thank you once more, as a representative of these people and as a daughter of a shameful father. I looked at her and gave a businesslike smile, and I shamelessly said, Then can I do something? Yes. Arhin agreed without a hint of doubt in my action. I coughed lightly and turned to the people. It was time to use the item. Some of you might still be addicted to happy. I said and looked around. I saw some people with blue spots here and there. I confirmed them and opened my inventory. Then I used the large-scale purification zone. It was time to finish this long and tedious schedule. Whoosh! A white light burst out from me. It soon enveloped everyone and spread out. Beyond the capital to the whole Bahano kingdom. I changed my outfit to a priest's robe at that moment. But why am I floating? For some reason, my body started to rise slowly to the sky. I closed my eyes for a moment in the endless white light and opened them. I was already as high as the top of the palace, and the white light was softly shining on my whole body. It looks like I'm ascending. I forced a smile and sighed inwardly. I looked down and saw that all the people's eyes were on me. Zane, Troy, and Arhin also looked at me with wide eyes. Oh my! What is this? Master, are you really not a mage? Between the people's admiration and astonishment, Zane's communication came. No, this is just the power of Kairos. I tried to make an excuse. The people of Bahano Kingdom witnessed an amazing sight. Now they will focus on your actions. For 10 minutes, the probability of all the people here becoming Kairos's followers increases by 50%. I laughed bitterly at the system message that appeared. Ha ha ha. Yeah. I wondered why it didn't show up, but did I have to be exploited like this? I closed my eyes tightly and opened them, and when I slowly opened my mouth, the admiration and astonishment in my ears subsided. This is all the will of Kairos whom I serve. I stretched out my arms to the sky. He guided us to this place. This much showmanship should be enough. I don't need to say more. I lowered my arms and looked at the people with one eye closed and opened. Title option fan service activated successfully. 12,382 people of Bahano Kingdom became Kairos's followers. What? 10,000 people? Wait, is there something wrong with my eyes? Does this make sense? Really more than 10,000 people, these people. I was so surprised that I opened my eyes wide. My body was already on the ground. Kairos, our savior. The people's thunderous cheers continued, but I couldn't hear them properly. The effect of the skill Follower of Beauty has improved. Follower of Beauty passive grade, mythical description. A total buff for the followers of Kairos, the god of beauty. The effect increases as the number of Kairos's followers increases. Current total number of followers, 13,982. Current acquired effect. The skin becomes noticeably better. I was stunned by the system windows that popped up one after another. My skin became noticeably better. Before, it was just improving, but now the effect was really enhanced. No, that's not important right now. The number of followers is close to 14,000. I had barely gathered over 1,000 followers, with great difficulty. Until now. Wow, this is unbelievable. I felt like crying from the mix of disappointment and joy. My child, you are amazing, Kairos. Kairos praised me with a bright and cheerful voice as if he had just returned. He finally looked like his usual self. The number of followers increased so much in an instant. That's right. I didn't expect this either. It's really amazing. I was sincere, not just saying it. But wasn't that purification done by Kairos's power anyway? Well, it's not important to question that. You worked hard, my child. You really did a lot. Kairos's voice touched me sincerely. Thank you, Kairos. My heart was pounding hard, but I pretended to be calm and smiled at the people. Master, you are awesome. Kairos. The countless people gathered in front of the Bahano Palace cheered for Leviathan and Kairos. Two figures were watching them from afar. Wow, he captured so many people in one go. He's amazing, isn't he? Khalid muttered with a smirk. Next to him, Tertius was standing blankly. A scene similar to what he was seeing now flashed through his foggy mind. The crowd that welcomed him and Tertius smiling among them. It was something that wasn't in Tertius's memory, but somehow it felt like it had happened. No, to be exact, it felt like it should have happened. Third Apostle, what are you going to do? It was Khalid's voice that brought Tertius's mind back to reality. What do you mean? Tertius glared at Khalid with a cold look as if he hadn't been spacing out. Then Khalid pointed at Leviathan surrounded by the crowd. Leviathan, he's gained so much power it seems like we'll have to deal with him soon, don't you think? Khalid smiled with his eyes narrowed. It's fine to do it now. Tertius' brow furrowed at his words. Well, I don't think it's that serious yet. Khalid's eyebrow twitched slightly at his answer. Oh, really? But look, see that woman over there? She's the only surviving royal of Bahano, and she's likely to take the throne. Khalid pointed at Arhan Bahano, who was wearing a tattered robe. But this is just my guess, but I have a feeling that if she becomes the queen, she'll declare Cairo's religion as the state religion. Then one of Tertius' eyebrows twitched slightly. Then the first apostle will naturally hear about it, even if we don't report it to him. Khalid didn't add anything more. He didn't need to, because Tertius knew. I don't care. If you say so. Khalid didn't show it, but Tertius' mind was dizzy. If the first apostle orders him to eliminate Cairo's religion, would he be able to carry out that order? He began to doubt himself. Anyway, if you're going to clean up Cairo's religion, I'd like you to leave Leviathan to me. Khalid licked his lips with his tongue and said greedily. Tertius turned to him. That won't happen. Tertius had a cold look in his eyes and brushed his hair that was blowing in the wind. He was determined to keep Cairo's religion from reaching the first apostle's ears. Soon, the two men's figures disappeared. Wow, it's the master. Really? Where? There, isn't that the master? Yes, Zane and Troy are with him too. Wow, he's a hero. I pulled down the hood I was wearing lower at the voices of the citizens, and I clenched my teeth and said softly, You guys, don't you want to wear hats? And when I looked at Zane, he was waving his hand at the people who were flocking to him. He tapped my shoulder and smiled. Master, you're too much. You should enjoy this time. You feel like a hero for once. No, are you a real hero? I bit my tongue at his answer. His face was full of sincere smiles, unlike his usual businesslike ones. This kid, he's having fun. Troy, how about you wear a hat too? I casually asked Troy, who was standing on my left. He wasn't smiling, so I thought he might cover his face, but my hope was mercilessly crushed. I don't mind the humans' hospitality, master. Troy too. I felt weird being the only one wearing a hat. I was embarrassed to take it off, but I had no choice but to lower the hood. Whoa! The people's cheers grew louder and I hurried my steps. It had been about 3 days since the battle in Bahano. The heat in the capital Bahano was quite hot. Most of the people recognized us and we were welcomed wherever we went. I should have stayed in a decent palace like Arhan said. It was my mistake to return to the inn where I had stayed before. The people's hospitality was nice, but only at first. As the days went by, it became harder to endure the heat. Damn, my child, how about enjoying it together? Kairos was also very excited. He had no choice. The number of followers was increasing day by day. After I saved Bahano and floated in the air, the number of followers increased steadily as the story spread through the people's mouths. Thanks to that, I received a lot of power from Kairos and my physical condition improved greatly. But this hospitality was new to me and I felt awkward. We're almost there. Thankfully, we reached our destination soon. We arrived at the royal palace, greeted by the hospitality of the people. Master, welcome. The guards, who were fewer than before, welcomed us. I nodded briefly to them and hurried into the palace. The number of people wandering around the palace was noticeably low, so there was no cheering like before. But every now and then, some people who recognized us came over and asked for a handshake, and I had to deal with them one by one. Our group was able to reach our destination, the main palace, after a little time had passed. Every day is fun. Zane was still in a cheerful mood. Troy also seemed to be in a good mood, with a smile on his lips. I'm the only one who's having a hard time. I sighed deeply and entered the main palace, and then I naturally moved my feet toward the reception hall. The current reception hall of the main palace was where the patients who were injured in the massive monsterization incident were gathered. Arhan had generously given up the place for the patients, saying, "There's no king anyway. Why do we need a reception hall?" As I opened the door and entered the reception hall, I saw the patients, who had decreased significantly from the first day. There are only 6 left now. I smiled faintly. As soon as the incident was over, I gave all the healing potions I had to the injured. I distributed the potions I made with healing skills, and the ones I made with normal ingredients according to the severity of the injuries. Of course, the ones I made with normal ingredients also had similar effects to the high-quality potions made by alchemists. I still had the recipe from the original work in my head. Anyway, thanks to using healing skills occasionally, the skill level had also increased. Healing active LV, 3 grade, legendary description. The effect increases proportionally to the skill level. LV, 1 heals the wounds and restores the fatigue of living beings. LV, 2 heals the mind of living beings. LV, 3 removes the poison and curse of living beings. LV, 4, locked. LV, 5. Locked experience 31/40, a skill that can remove the poison and curse of others. I didn't expect to get something like this. It had a similar effect to the 1,000-year-old ginseng elixir, but the elixir's effect was still better. The elixir's effect was always maintained, but there was a huge advantage, so I had no reason to be particularly disappointed. The elixir only applied to me, but the skill could be used on anyone. In that sense, the only thing that was a bit regrettable was that the experience required for skill level up increased by twice. It was 20 before, but now it's 40. A whopping 2 times if this trend continues. The experience required will surely be 80 after it reaches level 4. But I'll be level 4 soon because of this incident. As I thought that and entered the reception hall, the doctor who was taking care of the patients came up to us. "Master, you're here." He was originally the royal physician of the Bahano royal family. He was taking care of the patients under Arhan's order. "Master, your healing potions are very effective. Do you also practice alchemy? They seem to be more effective than the ones sold in the market." "That's not the case." I handed the healing potion to the doctor, who was shining his eyes at me. With this, the remaining patients would all recover, so my job was done here. "Master, the princess asked me to tell you to come see her when you visit." As we left the reception hall, greeted by the royal physician, the servant who was waiting with a dignified posture came up to us. He was the person we rescued from the detached palace before, so his expression was very bright when he saw us. I see. I understand. Zane, Troy. I took Zane, who was having a friendly conversation with the patients, and Troy, who was surrounded by children, and moved again. By the way, it's been a while since we saw the princess, Zane said with a smiling face as usual. He was right, we hadn't seen Arhan for the past few days. The coronation is in 2 weeks, so she must be very busy. Arhan was currently preparing to ascend to the throne. Although it had only been a few days since King Hebius died, the work was progressing quickly. When you think about it, it's only been a few days, but there's been a lot of work. 3 days ago, Silos was executed. He was crucified on the city gate for the crime of disrupting the kingdom. That's why I flinched every time I went in and out of the palace. And 2 days ago, the funeral of King Hebius in Prince Haven was held. Originally, the royal funeral in Bahano was held for a week, but since King Hebius and Prince Haven were no different from criminals, Arhan expressed her opinion and the funeral ended in a few hours. After hearing the news of the palace, the nobles who came up to the capital held a meeting to discuss the next king. Arhan, who was the only direct descendant of the royal family, said she wanted to discuss the next regime after stabilizing the kingdom, but the nobles opposed. After the monsterization incident, the surviving nobles were all on Arhan's side. If I had to give a reason, the surviving nobles were the ones who opposed King Hebius when he favored Silos. Strictly speaking, they were the faction of Arhan's sister Melina, but they supported her because they knew the relationship between Arhan and Melina well. The second reason was obvious. Arhan was currently receiving full support from the people, a hero who wielded a sword and ran around the country to save the people in crisis. That was Arhan's position now, so Arhan had no choice but to accept. Well, it's inevitable since there's no competitor anyway. As I thought about this and that, the servant's footsteps stopped. As the door opened, a decent-sized reception room appeared. Arhan was drinking tea inside. "You're here." Arhan smiled as she saw us. Her outfit, which was neat compared to when I saw her a few days ago, caught my eye first. She was wearing a white uniform and she looked far away from the time she spent in the Western Tower. "Please sit down." We sat down across from her, following Arhan's words, but Arhan's eyes were sunken. "You look tired." As I said that, Arhan smiled faintly. "I wish I could sleep well. I have a mountain of work to do day and night." Arhan complained, "I can't help it." I didn't need to explain the situation to understand the situation. King Hebius had been obsessed with Happy and had not paid attention to the state affairs. So all the work was Arhan's share, and at the same time she had to rebuild the capital Bahano, which would not be enough even if she had 10 bodies. "You'll be in trouble before you ascend to the throne." Zane joked with a businesslike smile. He finally returned to his usual self. "Don't worry, I won't close my eyes before the coronation." Arhan laughed heartily, then she quickly turned serious. "The reason I called you today is nothing else but—" I easily guessed what she was going to say next. She must have wanted us to attend the coronation. But we had already stayed in Bahano for several days. We were taking a break while taking care of the patients, but it was time to leave now. "Sorry, but I'll have to say no to the coronation." But what she said next overturned my expectation. "On the day I ascend to the throne, I'm going to declare Cairo's church as the state religion of Bahano." "What?" I unconsciously asked back, losing my color. Then Arhan repeated herself. "Cairo's church will be the state religion of Bahano." My ears weren't wrong. My goodness, is this for real? "Oh my child, your good deeds have become our revival," Cairo's also exclaimed with excitement. "Ha ha ha, I guess so." I couldn't easily continue the conversation after hearing the unexpected words. Then Arhan put down her teacup and smiled. "You look very surprised. Do you dislike it?" No, I don't dislike it. I'm just shocked, that's all." I picked up the teacup in front of me and gulped it down. Ouch, hot. I see you must be shocked, but when I was fighting against the monsters with you, I decided then. What did you decide? If you really want to save Bahano, I'll gladly stand by your side. This is the least I can do for you. No, it's a great honor. I tried to speak calmly, but my heart was pounding like crazy. State religion, state religion. Ma Master, this is not a dream, right? Zane asked me with a surprised look. Then Troy slapped Zane's back. Oh, what are you doing all of a sudden? To show you it's not a dream. You brat. I ignored the two who were bickering. Anyway, there's not much time left until the coronation, so how about setting up a temple in the capital? Yes, of course. That's what we're planning to do. I had already converted the land and building of the Rise's Church's Bahano branch into Cairo's Church's temple. That was all, though. If you have a preferred location, let me know. I can give you anywhere you want. Arhin was generous. This was the dignity of a king. This child has also become my believer, so she's willing to give anything. I realized then that Arhin had become a believer. I see. I was too late to notice, because too many people became believers at once. That's good. I smiled at the corner of my mouth and thought. The Temple of Bahano had to use the underground passage of the fruit shop building to get to the temple, so I'd like to improve this. Since the fruit shop building collapsed during the monsterization incident, I thought it would be better to open up the passage. That way, the accessibility of the believers would be better. Anyway, the fruit shop building was also bought by the Rise's Church for deception, so it was mine now. Then, I slowly opened my mouth. I want to use the temple that the Rise's Church used in Bahano as the Cairo's Church's temple. It's going to be abandoned anyway, so I think it would be better for us to use it. Really? Then, how about changing the exterior? The location of that place is not that good either. It would be fine to open up the road. Fortunately, Arhin seemed to know the location of the temple in the capital. That was good. I could communicate better. I immediately explained my plan to Arhin. First, I started with the fact that I accidentally found the passage and went there and saw the Rise's Church's temple. Then I said I wanted to open up the passage and change the exterior of the temple building to look like a real temple. The current exterior of the Bahano temple was no different from a normal building, so I wanted to change it. That way, people would come out of curiosity. I explained earnestly. How could I resist free remodeling? I see. Do as you wish. I heard Arhin's confirmation at the end of the long explanation. I tried to pull down my smirking lips. The construction should start as soon as possible, right? Of course. I had already taken everything that could make money from the temple in the past few days, so there was no problem to start remodeling right away. Is there anything else you want? Something you need? I want to show my gratitude to the Savior of the kingdom as much as possible. I had been waiting for those words. There is. I smiled. This was the moment I achieved my purpose of coming to Bahano. There was a road deep inside the Bahano palace that only the royal family could access with permission. It was a place where even the servants who cleaned it could not wander freely, and it was poorly maintained, with no human footsteps. Dust flew everywhere as I walked. Cough. Zane, who was walking on my right, coughed. Arhin, who was leading the way, looked back at him with a worried eye. Are you okay? Cough. Yes, I'm fine. I'm sorry. It hasn't been taken care of for a long time. It's okay. It can't be helped. Zane looked like he was struggling to suppress his cough. He should have covered his nose and mouth with the hem of his robe like me. Zane, Troy, and I were following Arhin's guidance. Our destination was the royal vault at the end of the dusty road. I smiled faintly. A little while ago, I asked Arhin, who wanted to show his gratitude, for one treasure from the royal vault. I agree. How can I not give anything to the benefactor of Bahano? Arhin readily accepted my request. Zane and Troy looked a bit surprised when I brazenly asked for a treasure from the royal vault. But what I wanted was not a treasure that was so great and precious that it could determine the fate of the kingdom. We're almost there. As Arhin announced our arrival, a huge iron gate appeared at the end of the road. There were 2 lions engraved on the gate, the seal of the royal family, and a round space in the middle. Arhin placed his palm on it. Then the gate opened with a thud. It was a similar method to when I used the secret passage in Holden's mansion. The royal secret vault could only be opened by the bloodline of the royal family, so it was the same method. Leviathan, come here. Arhin opened the door of the vault wide and gestured to me. Yes, princess. I approached the vault with a smile. Then Zane and Troy followed me. Wow, what is this? Zane's eyes widened and sparkled. I could see greed in his eyes in an instant. It was understandable. The vault was filled with all kinds of treasures, jewels, and various artworks neatly displayed. Do you see anything you like? Arhin asked me. Instead of answering her question, I entered the vault. It was said that it had not been maintained for a long time, but it was clean inside except for a little dust. The air was a bit cold, but it was fine. A familiar and warm energy came from the depths of the vault. My child, did you feel it too? Of course. I felt it as soon as I entered the palace. I see. You are indeed my lamb. I heard Cairo's voice of joy clearly. His voice made me feel good too. I walked slowly towards the inside. At the bottom of the cabinet where various treasures were displayed, there was a black box covered with dust as if it had been neglected for a long time. There was a golden lock on the black box. I reached for the box. Leviathan, do you want that? But Arhin called me in a surprised voice. I carefully lifted the box and looked at her. Yes, I want this. That is stored in the vault, but it is not a treasure. It is a box that no one, no matter what method they use, can open. It has been in the royal vault for a very long time, so it is stored, but it is not a treasure. Arhin tried to dissuade me as if my choice was wrong. It was not that she was sorry for the treasure. She just looked like she was genuinely disappointed in my choice. Zane came up to me as well. Princess, if you're trying to stop him, wouldn't it be better to choose something else? There was a pretty good treasure over there. Zane winked at me without Arhin seeing. He must have found a treasure of considerable value. Master, I think that's not a good choice. Troy also tried to dissuade me. Well, I can't help it. I put the box down in the empty space of the cabinet, and I touched the golden lock. Pop, the box opened with a small light. How can this be? How did you? Arhin, Zane, and Troy's eyes widened. At the same time, a message appeared in front of me. You have acquired Cairo's holy relic, Cairo's crown. Inside the box, there was a crown made of flowers of various colors, such as pink and white. The crown smelled fresh as if it had just been made with freshly picked flowers. Once, I wore this on my head. Wow, you must have looked very beautiful. Yes, I did. I imagined his appearance in my head and a picture was created in an instant. What is this? Arhin looked at the crown and me with a surprised eye. I spoke to her slowly. This is Cairo's holy relic. It's something that Cairo's used a long time ago. What? There was such a thing in the vault. Arhin's mouth opened wide, and so did Zane and Troy's. No, Master, is that really true? Master, is that real? Yes, I heard it from Cairo's. I nodded and held the crown in my hand. I had to equip the holy relic to return it to Cairo's. I didn't want to show this to everyone, but I had no choice. I made a short decision and put the crown on my head. Then Zane's brow furrowed first. Ugh, why are you wearing that, Master? Zane, don't be rude, it suits the Master well. Yes, it looks good on him. Troy and Arhin took my side, but I wasn't very happy with the situation either. But the crown soon turned into a white light and disappeared. Thank you, my child. The crown must have returned to Cairo's safely. It's gone, Master. I gave it back to Cairo's. I answered Zane briefly and moved my feet to get out of the vault. If that's the case, take one more treasure. No, Princess, this is enough for me. But I'm really fine. Arhin seemed to want to give me something more, but I had already received a lot from her. She had declared Cairo'sism as the state religion and even promised to remodel the temple. Master, don't be like that and take one more. There's a pretty good one over there. Zane seemed more regretful than me and whispered to me, but I turned away from him. Ignoring Zane's grumbling voice, I looked at the message that appeared before my eyes. You have acquired the title Star of Kairosism. Star of Kairosism, you who have worn Kairos' crown. You are as beautiful as Kairos, the god of beauty. Title option fan service 2. When you wave your hand at someone, you have a 10% chance of making them a follower of Kairosism. If you fail, they will ignore you. Only usable 3 times per person. I also acquired a title option along with the title, but this, again, fan service. At least it wasn't a wink, so I was relieved. A wave is fine, but what if I wave and wink at the same time? Would the probability be 20%? That's a great deal. I had walked a hard road for this, so it was worth it. Leviathan. On the way back from the vault, Arhin called me. Yes, princess. By the way, you're still staying at the inn, right? How about staying at the palace instead? I would have refused again a few days ago, but I didn't want to do that now. Rather, I was grateful that she asked me. I'll do that. Wasn't the inn okay, master? The people were hospitable and always welcomed you. I find that burdensome. It would be less burdensome to stay at the palace. I see. It will be ready soon. Thank you, princess. I'll be more comfortable now. Thanks to Arhin's consideration, we stayed at the palace. The palace we stayed at was the closest to the royal palace. She said we could come to her any time we needed something and kindly did that for us. And thanks to the servants who brought our luggage from the inn, we didn't have to leave the palace. After that, I entered the most splendid bedroom in the palace. Wow, the colors are very nice. You have a peculiar taste. Zane and Troy insisted that the master should use the best room, so this was the place chosen for me, but the design was not very good. It was nice that it was large and had a separate space for the bed and sofa, but there were expensive-looking ornaments everywhere. The furniture was too red, and there were gold accents. I prefer simple things. I wanted to change the room, but I gave up. This bedroom was isolated from the rest of the palace. That is, no one would hear what I did. I'll have to be careful when the servants come and go. Arhin had assigned us servants as well. Anyway, it was time to check that out, a corner of the bedroom. I went to a space where the bed was not visible and opened the inventory. Then I immediately took out the portal. I chose this place because it seemed to protect my privacy. Pop, a huge portal appeared in the air with a light. It looked like it couldn't be lifted by human strength. Yeah, I can't move it. The portal was a little taller than an adult male, so it was enough for Tertius to pass through, but there wasn't much room. I wondered if I could and grabbed the portal, and I applied some force. For a brief moment, I felt the portal move slightly, but that was less than a second. I can't move this. Never. But maybe I could put it back in the inventory, but how do I do that? I opened the inventory and approached the portal. As the inventory window overlapped with the portal quickly went back into the inventory window. Phew, that's a relief. It goes in. I took out the portal again from the inventory. I looked at the portal well installed in the corner and called the kids. Alfie, Chessie, Sasha, can you come over here? Yes, master. Yes, yes, yes. As soon as I heard the kids' answers, the air split and 3 kids appeared. I was glad to see them after a long time. It's been a while. I hugged each of the kids once. Of course, I had communicated with them occasionally, so I didn't feel any distance. How have you been, master? Where is this place? Oh, this is the palace of Bahano. I have something to ask you. I told them roughly. I plan to install the portal in each temple and go back and forth comfortably. So this is a device that lets you go to the temples like we do in the space. Yes. What an amazing thing. Kairos also seemed interested. This quest reward was no different from what I got from the system. So can you move this to the temple of Roval? The simplest way to install the portal in each temple was to visit the temples myself and take out the portal. But there's no need to waste precious time. Unlike me, the kids were in Roval and they could come to me through the space. And they were also quite strong, unlike their appearance, so maybe they could move it together. We'll try. Leave it to us. Yes, the kids answered and each grabbed the portal, and the next moment, the portal flashed in the kids' hands. Should I move it to your room, master? The children's expressions didn't change at all. These guys, how strong are they? I couldn't even feel jealous because they were in a different dimension. Sure, I appreciate it. I smiled bitterly and watched the children disappear into the space. The children who vanished with the portal came back soon. We moved it to your room, master. Good job, Alfie, Chessie, Sasha. Thank you. I stroked the children's hair and took out another portal from my inventory. Oh, there was one more. Where should I move this one? No, you don't have to move this one. By the way, wasn't the portal heavy? Oh no, we're fine, but it would be hard for humans to move it. I see. It was possible because the children were strong. I was glad and touched the portal. Only those who were allowed by the owner could use it, so I thought I would designate the authorized ones first. There was no way to specify it in the portal information, so I touched the portal. Then a system window popped up. Please specify who can use the moving portal. Is this it? There was no other message, so maybe it read my thoughts. I wondered and thought of the names: Alpheus, Chester, Sasha, Zane, Troy. I excluded myself because I could use it anyway. Then another message appeared. Moving portal user settings are complete. Oh, it seems to have worked. Shall I try it out? I walked straight to the portal. As I entered the place where the blue black hole was swaying, a familiar space appeared. It was the master's room in the Temple of Roval. Wow, how long has it been? I looked around the master's room that I hadn't seen in a long time and turned around to look out the window. The scenery of the temple outside came into view. The believers walking in the garden and the children running around with smiles. Wow, this is amazing. Oh, it's like a space. The children who followed me were amazed and passed through the portal several times. Cute things. I looked at the children with a smile and went back to Bahano. Then I remembered something I had forgotten. Kids, do you want to follow me? Yes. I left the bedroom with the children. Huh, master, you were with the kids. Master, who are these kids? Then I ran into Zane and Troy in the hallway, who seemed to be looking for me. Perfect timing, Troy. I was going to introduce Troy to the children anyway. This is Troy, who recently became our believer. He's helping me by my side. Oh, I see. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Alpheus and Chester greeted Troy. Sasha just nodded her head. And Troy, these are Alpheus, Chester, and Sasha in order. Alpheus is the high priest of Kairos, Chester is a knight, and Sasha is a priestess and an artist. Oh, I see. Nice to meet you. I'm Troy Mont. Troy greeted the children politely. He didn't seem to have any prejudice against the children who were in high positions, judging by his eyes. Zane, Troy, both of you follow me. I took the two men into the room, and when I pointed to the portal and explained, they were shocked. My goodness, really? How do you always surprise people, master? Master is like a magician. The two men were also amazed and went back and forth between Roval and Bahano through the portal. The children followed them, and I laughed for a while. The morning dawned in Roval. Max thought that day would be no different than usual, until he looked in the mirror. His face was the same as usual, but his skin felt unusually smooth. The blemishes were gone, of course, and the pores were not visible. It's true. His skin had improved a lot, even though he didn't make any effort. He had been stressed lately and didn't sleep well. Max left the bedroom just in case, and he ran to his mother, Laura. Mom, he met Laura, who was coming to wake him up, and Max rushed to her, and Max was surprised. Laura's skin had also improved noticeably compared to before. She looked much younger than her age, with no freckles or blemishes. Oh my, what's wrong, Max? When Max was surprised, his father, Bill, came up with a face that had just woken up from sleep. Max was surprised again. His father's gray hair was gone. How can this be? Max opened his mouth wide and looked at his parents, who looked younger. It was the moment when the believers of Kairos realized the massive buff that they didn't know. the follower of beauty. The day after I installed the portal in the bedroom, we received a breakfast invitation from Arhin. The restaurant in the palace was beautifully set with simple foods that were good to eat in the morning. I guess we need a cook in the temple too. Most of the time, we cooked ourselves, or sometimes the children did, but now that the number of temples increased, everyone would be busy. So it would be better to have a cook who cooks for us. I had to use the lottery ticket before the Bahano temple was completed, and I have to go to Aldone to install the portal and take care of the temple. It was hard to muster up the courage to go to Aldone, as I had to ride a carriage for a few days. The children could only come to where I was, so I couldn't send them to Aldone, so I had to visit Aldone myself soon. Today, the construction of the temple will begin. Arhin said as she spread apple jam on her bread. Already, that's fast. The people and I want the temple to be completed as soon as possible. Besides, the reconstruction of the capital is almost done. We had acted quickly during the monsterization crisis, so the damage to the capital was not that severe. Not only the lives, but also the buildings. The most damaged one was the fruit shop building in the chapel, but still. Also, when the news of the Kairos temple spread, the workers volunteered to help. They said the construction would be over soon. I see. I'm sorry and grateful. You don't need to feel that way. I and the people will do anything for Kairos. I felt a warmth in my heart. As I smiled happily, I saw Troy eating with food all over his mouth. I handed him a handkerchief and looked at Arhin. She added with a smile, "And I have something prepared for you." Yes, how about taking a vacation for 2 days? I widened my eyes at Arhin's sudden suggestion. A vacation, out of the blue. You seem to have not rested well since you came to Bahano. I thought about it and realized she was right. The journey had been so tight. Even after the monsterization crisis ended, I had been healing people. I did rest a bit in my spare time, though. Princess, if it's a vacation, are you paying for it? Zane's eyes sparkled. He looked like he couldn't resist a free vacation. Zane, if you reveal your greed like that, you'll be in trouble. Troy said seriously to Zane. Trouble? All the hair on your body will fall off. Are you cursing me right now? No, this is the truth. I ignored the two bickering and listened to Arhin. Of course I will pay for all the expenses. Vacation, vacation. I want to show you the beautiful scenery of Bahano. Haven't you stayed in the capital every day since you met me? Well, yes, but if you don't have time, I can't help it. I had never taken a vacation since I came to this world, so I was looking forward to it. Next schedule is not decided yet, so 2 days should be fine. Yes, my first child. This might be a good opportunity to go on a vacation. Let's do it. It had been quite a while since I came to the world of Wusabiup. It has already been several months now. Maybe I should take a proper break for once. I agree. My acceptance brightened the faces of Arhin, Zane, and Troy. Kids, are you that happy? The vacation preparation was done quickly. Actually, we didn't do much. Arhin must have prepared everything in advance because as soon as we finished our meal, the servants were waiting for us. So Zane packed his personal belongings and we were ready to go. We got on the carriage with the royal seal. I leaned back on the soft seat and felt drowsy. The royal carriage was as good as Holden's. Money is good indeed. I've never seen such a nice carriage. Zane and Troy seemed to like it, as their faces were more relaxed than usual. By the way, where are we going? I had heard the servants telling us, but I didn't listen carefully because Kairos was excited about the vacation. We're going to a village called White, which is 2 hours away from the capital by carriage. As far as I know, White is a place where winter comes earlier than other places. There must be a lot of snow already. Zane's information made me excited. Snow. I didn't expect to see snow in this world. I smiled happily and turned my gaze to the window. As I did, I saw Zane sitting across from me. He was rummaging through my luggage and took something out. I frowned when I saw what it was. Zane, do you have to work even on the carriage to the vacation? Of course, I can't waste the travel time. Zane started knitting. This guy. Zane, there are things more precious than money in the world. Troy couldn't help but say. Zane shrugged it off. Yeah, I guess so, but to me money is the most precious. He had the same expression as usual, but I knew very well that he meant it. He had no choice but to be like that. He must have some reason. Yes, everyone has their own circumstances. Me, Zane, Troy. The carriage kept running while we were talking. As we passed the capital that was more lively than a few days ago, a small forest road appeared. I leaned on the window and closed my eyes. Maybe it was because I felt relaxed for the first time in a long time. I felt sleepy. We've arrived. I woke up from my sleep as the carriage came to a halt and the attendant opened the door for me. Wow. I couldn't help but gasp as I stepped out of the carriage. This is where you'll be staying for 2 days. The white mansion looked like something out of a fairy tale. It was not only beautiful on the outside, but also the garden and the mountain behind it were all covered in snow. A mansion standing gracefully on the snow-covered slope. What a splendid place. It's so beautiful. I've never seen anything like this. Even though the place was full of snow, the roads were neatly cleared. That's right, this world has snow removal potions. It was a strange world that was both inconvenient and convenient. If you want to visit the village, please call us anytime. The village. I should go there later. The house has everything you need, and we've brought winter clothes for you. And there's a hot spring behind the house, so feel free to use it. The attendant bowed politely and opened the door of the mansion. As soon as I entered, I felt a warm heat wrap around my body. I must have forgotten the cold for a while as I admired the mansion and the scenery. Wow, as expected. The royal villa is different. I agreed with Zane's words. The villa was as big as the palace's annex, and it was decorated just as beautifully. I looked around the various ornaments and headed to the bedroom on the first floor. I liked the simple design of the beige room and chose it as my place. The bedroom had a bell cord to call the attendant easily, and a spacious bed and a small bathroom attached. After checking out the room, I ran into the guys who came out of the nearby bedrooms. Master, shall we go to the village right away? I want to go to the village too. Since they wanted to, I had to take them. Let's go. Wow, it's beautiful. The road to the village by carriage, except for the road and the sidewalk that the carriage passed by, everything was covered in snow. The royal villa was on a hill and the village was spread out below the hill. It wasn't very big, but it wasn't small either. It had the feel of a medium-sized tourist town. It's worth visiting. White smoke rose from the chimneys all over the village. It felt like I had found a village in a fairy tale. Not long after, the carriage stopped near the entrance of the village. I didn't want to be seen by the people getting off the carriage with the royal seal on it, so I made a decision. Fortunately, there weren't many people on the streets of the village, so there wouldn't be many people who saw us, so I didn't bother to put on the hood of my thick winter coat. You look warm, kid. Yes, it's warmer than I thought. This coat. The coat I wore was made of thick fur. It was a bit unpleasant that the fur came from a monster, but it was better than an animal being sacrificed. I've heard that Bahano's white is beautiful, but it's even more beautiful when I see it with my own eyes. I think so too. Zane and Troy exclaimed in admiration. I too felt like I had entered a fairy tale every time I looked around. Master, let's go over there. Let's fill our stomachs first. Okay, let's go. It was a rare vacation, so I decided to listen to their requests as much as possible. The place that Zane led us to was a restaurant. Welcome, Tilda. We were greeted by a cozy owner as we entered, and a delicious smell hit us. Sniff. This is meat. The restaurant was full of customers, which meant that it was a popular place in the village. We sat down at the only empty seat and a waiter brought us a menu. I handed the menu to Zane. Then Zane and Troy picked their menu diligently. Please give us claw rabbit stir-fry and blade bear roast. I was shocked when I heard Zane's order. Wait a minute, is this a place that sells monster meat? Ugh, I rubbed my forehead. Of course, I often saw dishes made with monster ingredients when I played Wusabiep, but that doesn't mean I wanted to eat them. I couldn't cancel the order when I saw the two guys drooling over the food on the other table. Besides, what they ordered seemed to be the main menu of this place. I looked closely and saw that everyone else was eating the same menu. They even eat monsters. There are monsters that can be eaten. It was a very natural thing for the people of this world, but I had never eaten them before. I didn't even want to. Enjoy your meal. The ordered dishes came out soon. It was a stir-fry with a brownish color and a roast with a golden crust. It looks delicious. Zane and Troy immediately grabbed the food and ate it. I was hungry too, so I picked up a piece of meat. It was hard to put it in my mouth. Oh, it's so good. It's really good. I could only push the food into my mouth when I heard the sincere compliments of the two guys. So this was claw rabbit stir-fry. This taste, it was moderately salty and sweet. It was delicious. I swallowed the meat and picked up a blade bear roast. This was also good. It was tender, lean, and chewy. It suited my taste very well, so that's why they eat them. I started to eat the food quickly, competing with the two guys who didn't stop moving their chopsticks. After eating the monster meat, we wandered around the white village diligently. There were many souvenir shops that tourists often visited, so we bought souvenirs and ate special desserts made of snow. Then we bought a few bottles of liquor that the people of White Village usually drank and returned to the villa. It was almost evening when we arrived at the mansion. "Master, are you going to have a drink tonight? Since we bought it, we should drink it. Then I'll make the snacks." Zane lifted his chin and showed confidence. Could this guy cook well? I was doubtful. "Then I'll help too." Troy volunteered as well. Zane didn't seem to like it, but he accepted Troy in the end. "But you have to do as I say." "Got it, don't worry." "Then master, please rest comfortably." I felt uneasy somehow, but I left them alone. "My little bird, what are you going to do now?" I don't know. I don't have anything to do, so I'm going to the hot spring." I was going to call the attendant and ask him to prepare, but I got ready in the bedroom and headed to the back of the house. There was a hot spring behind the house with smoke rising from it. "Oh, it's an open-air bath. I want to do it too." Kairos appeared in an instant. A puppy popped up and walked to the hot spring with small steps. The footprints on the white snow were quite cute. Splash! The puppy jumped into the hot spring and shook his body. It's warm, and the cold wind blows at the same time, making it refreshing. Kairos looked very satisfied. I smiled and put on a robe and entered the hot spring. It's cold. As soon as I dipped my feet in the hot spring, a warm sensation spread throughout my body. I walked inside and found a suitable spot, and Kairos swam over to me. Puff! The puppy's appearance, cutting through the water and coming closer, was so adorable. "How is it, my swimming skills?" "You're very good." I laughed and Kairos laughed too. It's peaceful and fun, kid." Kairos had been staring at me for a while. Did I laugh too loud? "You always work hard. Why are you saying that all of a sudden?" I felt awkward by the sudden seriousness of Kairos. I stroked the wet fur of the puppy and his eyes looked sad somehow. "Thank you for always moving for me." "It's also for me. I have to move hard to survive." But Kairos didn't answer and just stared at me quietly. "Kairos, what are you thinking about?" "No, it's just not long ago I couldn't even have a form. I feel peaceful." "Right. I love it here. It's quiet, peaceful, and cozy." As I sat still and looked at the snow-covered mountain, my worries melted away like snow. When will this peace come again? Yeah, that's right. Kairos also looked at the mountain with me. We enjoyed a moment of peace without any conversation for a while. After leaving the hot spring, I changed my clothes and headed to the dining room where Zane and Troy were. Ugh. But what's wrong with them? Zane, Troy. I called the two people who were lying on the table, but they didn't get up. My brow furrowed in an instant. The guys who said they would prepare dinner finished cooking and drank some alcohol. In the middle of the large table there were gratin, bread, pasta, various cheeses and fruits, and a bottle of liquor rolling around. Don't get angry. They just tasted it and got drunk. Kairos, who returned to his spiritual form, made an excuse for them. That's why I'm more annoyed. The liquor of White Village was very strong to withstand the cold, so you get drunk quickly even if you don't drink much. They couldn't resist. I sighed and sat down at the empty seat. I had to eat by myself. I poured some liquor into a clean glass. A refreshing and strong alcohol smell came out at the same time. I took a sip of the liquor and felt a sour sensation in my mouth. Not bad. It went well with the still warm gratin. I drank the liquor and checked the state of the two guys. They were completely asleep. Ugh, huh. Then, Zane's eyelids opened and his eyes were very loose. He looked at me with a sheepish smile. Ugh, master. The drunk guy raised his voice. Quiet down and sleep. I drank the liquor and glanced at him, but Zane ignored my words and lifted his head. Then he leaned his face on my arm as if he was dizzy. He looks like a troublemaker with his half-open eyes. I clicked my tongue as I looked at him, and Zane muttered, "Master, please give me more money. I'm giving you enough already. But please give me more." Zane smiled faintly and demanded brazenly. He was greedy. On the other hand, Troy was still asleep like a dead man. "I'll take care of you better from now on, so just sleep," I said to Zane as if I was scolding him, but he didn't budge. "Master, do you think I'm a money-crazed guy? You're asking the obvious." "Yeah, right." The smile disappeared from Zane's face. Soon his eyes moistened. "But master, if I don't have money?" A tear fell from Zane's eyes. No one can protect me." I took a sip of the liquor quietly. It had a bitter aftertaste. Maybe it was because I saw Zane's tears. This guy. I sighed inwardly as Zane spoke. "Master, you know our house was." Zane's pronunciation was so muffled that I could barely understand him unless I paid close attention. "We were very, very poor, so poor that we were torn apart." I drank the liquor continuously as I listened to his words. Zane sniffled and continued his confession. "Our parents left us with a huge debt and passed away, and I was the youngest, you know. I had a sister and a brother." The drunkard's words were interrupted here and there, but I could understand his situation since I knew it. Anyway, the debt was so big that no matter how much we worked, we couldn't pay it off. And then, sob. Zane suddenly burst into tears as his emotions surged. He looked pitiful as he cried like a child. I handed him a handkerchief, and he wiped his tears and blew his nose with it. "You can have it." I didn't intend to take it back. "Thank you. You gave me this expensive handkerchief." Zane laughed out loud as he received the handkerchief, but then he became gloomy again and shed tears. "By the way, master, do you know what happened to my sister and brother?" "I don't." "The debt collectors came every day because the debt was so big. Those bastards beat my brother up every day, you know. They tried to beat my sister and me too, but my brother stepped in and took all the hits. Poor brother." Tears streamed down Zane's eyes. What a sad story. Kairos also empathized and sniffled. "Then one night my brother suddenly woke me up. He told me to hide and pushed me into the closet, so I stayed there." Zane couldn't finish his sentence. He stared blankly for a while, then opened his mouth with difficulty. "The debt collectors came with knives. They stabbed my brother and sister and told them to come along quietly. My brother and sister couldn't refuse and were dragged away by them." "What about you?" "I hid in the closet and couldn't do anything because my brother and sister kept signaling me not to come out. They smiled until the end as they were taken away. I was scared, so I stayed there, and then I found out later." I clenched my mouth. The story was more emotional when I heard it from the actual person than when I read it in the original work. My sister and brother were sold to pay off the debt. Zane covered his face with both hands. Transparent tears flowed down his wrists. But I was only 12 years old then, so I couldn't find out where my brother and sister went. Since then, I've been saving money like crazy. I realized that I needed money to keep anything from being taken away from me. Zane removed his hands from his face. His face was dirty with tears and snot. The debt collectors didn't come anymore after they sold my brother and sister and cleared the debt, but it felt like they sacrificed themselves for me, and I couldn't bear it. I wanted to comfort him, but I couldn't open my mouth. A clumsy consolation would only be a mockery. Instead of opening my mouth, I looked at Zane's eyes quietly, and he took a breath and continued his explanation. So I saved and used all that money to find my brother and sister's whereabouts. He grabbed the liquor bottle that I had followed, but I took his hand off. I gave him water instead. Thank you, master. Zane smiled faintly, but then he became sad again. So what happened then? I brushed my hair back and asked him. I found my brother's clue quickly. He was sold as a slave to a faraway country. He died in an accident while working hard. If I had been a little faster, that wouldn't have happened. Sniff. Zane wiped his nose, then he shook his head vigorously and spoke again. But luckily my sister is alive. He smiled. The smile he made while shedding tears only hurt my heart. But our sister, she's also very pitiful. She worked as a maid in a noble family and came to believe in Diego Church, but then Zane's eyes turned cold. She changed when I met her after a few years. She became a fanatic of the Diego Church. Zane's lips curled up. She didn't care about me when we met again, and she only praised the Diego god. She gave all the money she earned, and the money I gave her to Diego Church. Zane laughed sarcastically. She told me to believe in Diego Church when I told her not to, but how can I believe? Diego Church is dragging my sister, who is in hell, to a deeper hell, and then Zane's sarcastic laughter turned into a madman's. My sister became a saint of Diego Church. I see. Do you know, the saint of Diego Church can't leave Diego Church until she dies. Of course I know. I drank the liquor instead of answering. So what can I do? If I want to get my sister out of there, I have no choice but to destroy the Diego Church. Zane's lips rose slightly. Now my family is only my sister. To protect my sister, I don't know any other way than to destroy the Diego Church. Zane leaned on my arm and lowered his head. His voice got smaller. So I'm saving money hard. When I get my sister out of Diego Church, I don't want to lose her again. I'm saving like crazy, because now I want to protect my sister. Zane's voice didn't continue. He was either asleep or breathing evenly. I didn't know he had such a situation. Kairos sniffled. I drank the liquor quietly. The saint of Diego Church was the representative of Diego Church, and she lived in the main branch of Diego Church. And the security of the main branch of Diego Church was considerable. In the original work, Zane had already tried to get his sister out several times. He fought with the priests of Diego Church when he tried to take his sister out after she finished her activities as a saint and returned to the main branch. Zane didn't hesitate to stain his hands with their blood, but the number of people who wanted to protect the saint was so large that his attempt failed every time. Then he finally came to a conclusion. To get his sister back, he had to destroy Diego Church itself. Poor guy. I fixed Zane's disheveled hair with my hand, and I whispered, "Don't worry, I'll destroy Diego Church. I'm sorry, master. I apologize, leader." I looked at the two guys who bowed their heads in shame. We were in a carriage heading back to the capital Bajano. Zane and Troy, who sat across from me, looked at me with apologetic eyes. Last night, I carried these two guys to their bedroom myself. I could have left them in the dining room and let the servants take care of them, but it was too late to call them. And when noon came, I shoved them into the carriage. Thanks to the servants who packed our luggage, we were able to leave quickly. Zane and Troy only remembered what happened last night after the carriage started moving, and they apologized to me. Couldn't you wait for a moment and had to drink and get drunk by yourselves? It was ridiculous to think about it. I'm sorry, master. We really meant to drink just a little, but somehow. We're truly sorry, leader. Forget it. What can I do about what's already happened? By the way, Zane, do you remember what you did yesterday? I asked him just in case, and his eyes widened as he was startled. What? Why? Did I make a mistake yesterday? Well, not really. It sounds like I did. I must have made a mistake. I'm sorry. His shoulders sagged. No, it wasn't that bad. I just thought you had some secrets. I didn't feel the need to tell him that he talked about his past, so I kept my mouth shut. But Zane seemed anxious and kept looking at me. Don't worry about it. It was just you being drunk and silly. Oh, I see. Fortunately, he seemed to have no memory of last night and returned to his usual self. He even knitted diligently on the way back to the capital. I took a nap and woke up to find that the carriage had arrived at the palace. I thanked Arhin, who came to greet us and said that we had a good vacation, then headed to the villa. I thought I would rest for today, but then I took a portal to Roval. Well, I have some work to do anyway. As soon as I arrived at the leader's office, I skimmed through the documents that were piled up. The kids had done a lot of work while I was gone, so there wasn't much to do. You should rest for today. It's okay. I had enough fun. I was signing the documents when I heard a communication from Alpheus. Leader, Alpheus, what's up? The Holden family has visited the temple. Who? The knights, sir. They came to escort you, leader. I mean Reveloff. What? What was this all about? I put down the documents and got up. I'll be right there. I quickly left the leader's office. I changed into a priest's robe and took off my glasses, and when I came out of the building I saw the knights of the Holden family, including Fanatic. Sir, Fanatic ran up to me with a bright smile as soon as he saw me. Fanatic, what are you doing here? Did my mother send you? What? Sir, didn't you receive the letter? What was he talking about? I got a letter. I'm sure the butler sent you a letter a few days ago. I don't remember receiving it. It must have been lost then. I turned my head to look at the kids. They followed me as soon as I came out of the building and they looked clueless. We didn't receive any letter. Alpheus spoke for us. Then it must have been our mistake. I'm sorry, sir. Well, it can happen. It's okay. It was only natural that people made mistakes. But what's going on? Tomorrow is Lady Gaju's birthday party. We came to escort you, sir. Fanatic smiled and said, and I was surprised. Wah, my mother's? Yes. I had no idea since I hadn't celebrated a birthday since I came to this world. I searched my old memories and remembered my mother's birthday, the days when I was too sick to attend the party. Come to think of it, your birthday is next month, sir. Oh, right. I had forgotten about that too. Well, it wasn't that important. Then there will be a party for your birthday too, sir. I guess. I didn't care about that either. So my mother and brother told you to take me. Yes, sir. Everything is already prepared, so you just need to come. Why were there so many unexpected things happening lately? But I couldn't ignore my mother's birthday as a Confucian, so I had to accept. Okay. Fanatic led me to the carriage that was prepared for me to ride. I felt a strange feeling as I got on the carriage with Holden's seal on it. Is it because I left the mansion for a few months? I didn't stay there for long, but I felt attached to it. I felt a sense of stability even though I came back after only a few months. The carriage started to move, and the scenery of Roval came into view. I felt nostalgic as I had been away from Roval for a while. As I watched the changing surroundings, I soon saw Holden's mansion. As I entered the garden after passing the gate, I suddenly remembered when I first came to this world. I didn't expect to adapt so well back then. I smiled faintly and looked at the still beautiful garden. It was the beginning of winter, so the vitality of the garden had noticeably decreased, but it was well maintained. Soon the carriage stopped and Fanatic opened the door for me. Welcome, young master. As I got off the carriage, Paul and the servants greeted me in a line. Did you have a good time, Paul? Of course. How about you, young master? I did too. I was glad to see them after a long time. Where are mother and brother? They are both busy with work right now. They will probably come to see you soon. I see. I smiled and followed Paul into the mansion. The inside of the mansion was the same as before. The servants also welcomed me as they used to, and nothing seemed to have changed much. And when I entered my room, I realized that Sevenus' words were true. He said he would keep it ready for me to come back anytime. The room was as neat as the day I left. There was no dust at all, as if it was cleaned every day. I haven't seen this room in a long time, that's right. I felt nostalgic. I remembered how proud I was of having a few dozen believers until then. I sat down on the bed and looked around. By the way, Mother's birthday party is tomorrow. It's my first time at a party. I was so busy moving around since I came to this world, and I never got invited to a party. Well, I'll manage somehow. Knock, knock. The door opened with a knock, and that was when it happened. Levi, you're here. It was Sevenus. Brother, long time no see. Yeah, how have you been? You look paler than last time. Paler? No, I've been eating well and taking care of myself. What does Sevenus think of me that he still says I'm pale? After the number of believers increased dramatically, I got more power from Kairos, so I was in a very healthy state. If you say so. Sevenus scratched his neck awkwardly. Brother, where's Mother? She'll be here soon. Just follow me for now. I followed Sevenus out of the room. By the way, I haven't seen the leader of the Leviathan church lately. Yes, yes. He must have planted someone near the temple. I expected that, but it felt strange to hear it directly. I'm just a priest. I can't know everything about the leader's whereabouts. He's a very busy person. He's also mysterious. Really? He's not neglecting you because he's busy. No, he always cares for me. And he also bestows grace on the few believers. And he always prays for the revival of the Kairos church and the believers. I desperately shielded myself from him. I talked a lot, but it wouldn't make sense for a priest like Reveloff to know everything about the leader Leviathan. It should be enough to say that he cares for me well. I see. Oh, and if you ever meet the leader of the Leviathan church, tell him I'm sorry. Thankfully, Sevenus nodded and moved on. And then he added one more thing. I couldn't invite the believers of Diego Church to this party because it might be uncomfortable for you. Let's have a meal together later. Oh, yes. Did he consider me? I chewed on Sevenus' words as I walked, and before I knew it, he stopped walking. His destination was the reception room. As soon as I entered, I saw a rack full of clothes and a man in a flashy purple suit. Hello, Reveloff. The man, who looked like he was in his 30s, greeted me politely. Ah, yes, hello. Who is he? Levi, this is Pedro, the most popular designer in the empire. He's going to make your suit. What? Brother, Mother's birthday party is tomorrow, right? It usually takes a lot of time to get a suit made in a noble family. It's impossible to do it in a day. I know, but it'll be fine. Of course. Don't worry, Reveloff. I can finish it by tomorrow morning. I felt sorry for Pedro somehow. He must be staying up all night for my suit. Well, would you come this way? Pedro smiled a business smile, and I walked up to him. He reminded me of Zane somehow. Reveloff, you have a very good figure, just like the Count and Sevenus. Of course. Sevenus seemed more excited by Pedro's compliment. Is this why he called him? Shall we start then? Pedro's eyes changed. He measured me first, and he was very fast. It was over in an instant. He's not a pro for nothing. Then Pedro checked the clothes on display and compared them with my face. He pondered over the colors and then sketched on a blank paper. How about this? On the paper he handed me, there was a suit drawn with so many ornaments that it was hard to describe in words. It's too flashy. I prefer something simple. Oh, I see. Pedro quickly drew another picture and handed it to me, but the color was purple. I don't really like this color. It reminded me of Khalid, and I hated it. Pedro kept handing me pictures, and I kept rejecting them. In the end, we decided on a simple black suit. I think I can finish this by tonight. Pedro wiped the sweat from his forehead and smiled with effort. I'm sorry, Pedro, your taste doesn't match mine at all. After choosing the outfit, I had nothing to do, so I walked around the garden, ate, and rolled around in my room. Before I knew it, it was evening and Pedro came back to the mansion. Oh, are you satisfied? It's nice. The suit was of high quality, considering it was made in a few hours. Thank you. Pedro boasted that he used the finest fabric and made it himself for several hours. The suit was very comfortable when I tried it on. The touch was good too. Sevenus checked my clothes carefully, and when he gave his approval, Pedro was very happy. After choosing the suit, my mother's work was done. Levi, it's nice to have dinner together after a long time. The dinner time with the family. My mother and Sevenus' eyes were on me all the time. Every time I picked up something to eat, the food was placed in front of me, and it was so burdensome. I like it too. I smiled and ate diligently for my mother's sake. It looks delicious. This guy doesn't need to eat, but he always does this. By the way, Levi, it's been a long time since you attended a birthday party. It was actually the first time. That's right. Mother, how are we going to celebrate Levi's birthday? Sevenus, who had been listening quietly, suddenly brought up the topic. Oh, that's right. Levi's birthday is next month, right? Let's have a grand party then, everything that we couldn't do because of the Malone's disease. My mother looked happier than me, but unfortunately that was impossible. Mother, I'm fine. I'm also a devout follower of the religion. Strictly speaking, I was now no different from a monk, so there was no reason for the Holden family to throw me a birthday party. But Levi, it's a rare occasion. I appreciate your and brother's feelings, but I don't want to have a party. I'm going to spend it quietly at the temple. I had no intention of deciding my birthday schedule a month in advance. I didn't know how this damned hidden route world would change. My mother and Sevenus didn't try to persuade me any further with my firm answer. All right, Levi, but don't refuse the gift. Yes, Mother. I'm always sorry and grateful. I swallowed the rest of my words. When the day of the birthday party came, the mansion was busy from early morning. I finished a simple meal in my room and planned to take a walk in the garden, but I was caught by the servants. The main character of the birthday party was my mother, so why did I have to dress up? Because you are attending the party for the first time in a long time, sir. Paul smiled and answered my question. Yeah, that's right. According to Revelov's memory, it was the first time in about 12 years. I had no choice but to nod my head. Then the real dressing up began. I took a bath and got a massage from the servants. It was very comfortable to get served after a long time. That's why money is the best. After that, the servants took care of my hair and put on some simple makeup. Sir, your skin is amazing. Others would think this compliment was empty, but not me. Is it? This was thanks to the beauty follower effect. When I first came to this world, my skin condition was rough and dry. It was natural for a patient who had Malone's disease. But when the disease was cured and the beauty follower effect occurred, my skin improved noticeably. At this rate, the believers might notice the change. Someday, there might be a rumor that you become beautiful if you believe in Kairos. After finishing the makeup and hair, I looked pretty decent. You're beautiful. You're worthy of being my first apostle. Of course, am I the leader of Kairos for nothing? I also had the god of beauty passive besides the beauty follower effect. You're the most beautiful in the empire, my dear. I don't think that's the case. No, my lamb, you're the most beautiful in the continent. Yes, thank you. As I was having a ridiculous conversation with Kairos, the servants changed my clothes to a suit. The suit was mostly black with silver ornaments here and there. This was simple enough that it wouldn't stand out too much in the party hall. You're even prettier with the clothes on, are you? I don't really know, no. You have a different beauty than the leader's clothes, I see. It doesn't look much different to me. Anyway, after finishing the dressing up, it was almost afternoon. Soon the party began. Lara Holden's birthday party was held at the Holden estate, which was far from the capital of the empire, but every year many nobles attended. They came from far away because of their respect for her, a war hero, and the support of the royal family. And this year's party had the most nobles ever. There was one reason. It was because the second prince of the Holden family, who had not been seen for a long time, Revelov Holden, was attending. Is he really a handsome man as rumored? They say he looks just like his father-in-law, Lord Kane. I'm looking forward to it. The nobles were all looking forward to Revelov Holden's beauty, regardless of gender. Inside the party hall, a sweet music played by the orchestra flowed. The nobles waited for the main family to appear with anticipation. Today's party's main characters, Lara Holden, Countess, Sevenus Holden, and Reveloff Holden are entering. Finally, the door of the party hall opened and the main characters appeared. Lara Holden, who wore a dark red dress, was elegant and beautiful as usual. Flanking her on both sides were her two sons. Sevenus Holden, who had frequent contact with the nobles, tied his long silver hair into a single strand and let it hang on the side, and he didn't wear his usual glasses today. Thanks to that, he didn't look as cold as usual. The nobles admired his beauty. They then turned their eyes to the other side. Everyone's eyes widened. The nobles gathered in the banquet hall were speechless. Their eyes were all drawn to one person, Reveloff Holden. His golden hair shone brilliantly, and his blue eyes were dazzling. His slightly raised eyes and the tear mole under them made him more attractive. His skin was also clear and flawless, and his face gave a delicate impression, but his body was well built and his clothes fit him perfectly. The black suit he wore had no fancy decorations, but had silver accents that matched his splendid face. My goodness, is that? Wow, that's unbelievable. The nobles couldn't help but admire him. They had heard that Reveloff Holden had been suffering from an incurable disease, but his appearance now showed no trace of his past illness. He's so beautiful. As the nobles' admiration continued, the Holden family, who were the center of attention, slowly entered the banquet hall. Lara, who greeted the people leisurely, and Sevenus, who nodded to the nobles he knew. Unlike the two, Reveloff only looked straight ahead. I'm so embarrassed. This was the first time he had done something noble-like since he came to this world, and Reveloff didn't know where to look. He just hoped that this time would pass quickly and forced a smile. I want to go home. Technically, this banquet hall was also inside the Holden mansion, so it was no different from being at home, but he wanted to go back to the Temple of Roval. He glanced around and took a deep breath. The noble's eyes had not stopped since he entered the banquet hall. I miss my glasses. He hadn't taken his glasses off much since he left home, so it felt more unnatural to be without them now. Is it because I'm showing my real face? My child, have confidence. Kairos tried to cheer him up, but his strength kept draining. He was glad that no one came to talk to him directly. What am I doing here? The banquet hall was filled with calm classical music, and the servants were walking around with food and drinks. All he did was pick up some food from the corner and look around. The hostess of today's banquet, his mother, was busy talking to everyone, and the nobles kept approaching Sevenus and talking to him. Sevenus is definitely popular. Are you jealous, my child? No. I'm more sorry than jealous. That must be very annoying. He had announced his departure to the outside world so the nobles wouldn't come near him. He was the second son of the Holden family, but his status was still a novice priest of the Kairos church. You're so beautiful, right? How can he be so noble? But I heard he joined a small religion called the Kairos church. Kairos church, what's that? As he was sipping his drink, he heard the nobles' murmurs and their hot eyes on him. The nobles were not from this area, so they didn't know about the Kairos church. That's when it happened. An unexpected situation occurred. The third prince of the Herfian Empire, Gawain Herfian, has arrived. He was startled by the sudden announcement. There was a late guest, but he was a surprising person. His mother often did royal work, so he thought there might be some royalty involved. Why did he have to come? His brows furrowed. A young man with short brown hair and a fancy suit entered the banquet hall. That guy was the third prince of the empire, Gawain Herfian. He was a fanatic of the Diego Church to the bone, and he was stupid. He didn't play a big role or stand out much in the original work. But he didn't like him every time he said something. I felt the snake's energy all over the banquet hall. But that guy is especially strong. I heard he's no different from a fanatic of the Diego Church among the royal bloodline of the Herfian Empire. Now that I think about it, your brother said that at dinner time. Yes. He talked to Kairos while keeping his eyes on the third prince. Gawain greeted his mother warmly and shook hands with Sevenus, and the nobles flocked to him and greeted him. I like him even less when I see him in person. When Tertius visited the imperial city in the original work, he nagged at him every time he spoke. He had to listen to a lot of insults from the third prince because he chose the wrong options a few times. That's why I hate him more. He wanted to leave his seat. The banquet was not fun at all, and no one talked to him. He was going to stay as long as possible because it was his mother's birthday banquet. He was thinking that when the third prince, who he hated to see, came closer. He's not coming to me, is he? It seems like he is. Damn, his sad hunch was right. Nice to meet you. You're the second son of the Holden family, right? Gawain came up to him and said bluntly, yeah, he was royalty and he was the second son of a count, so he could do that. He didn't like the way he looked at him. He said he was glad to meet him, but he didn't look happy at all. Ah, yes, it's an honor to meet you. Your Highness, the third prince. All he could do was smile for business and greet him. But the third prince's brow wrinkled. What's wrong with him? But he narrowed his eyes and slowly opened his mouth. How come you joined a religion that no one has ever heard of? It's too much to say that you cured a disease. It's a place where even the name is not known. Wow, this kid, he expected it, but he really spoke without a brain. Oh, my child, how can he say such a thing? Just a disease. That's right. He knew there were few sane people among the royal bloodline, but this was too much. I cursed inwardly, but I didn't lose my smile. Your Highness, the disease I had was not a common one. It was Malone's disease. I deliberately spoke loudly so that others could hear. Malone's disease. Yes, that's right. It's an incurable disease. There are many people in the Empire who suffer from Malone's disease. But thanks to the treatment I found in the Kairos church, I was able to recover. I continued to speak firmly without lowering my voice. Originally, I had only a year left to live, so I had given up on my life. But the treatment from the Kairos church extended my life, and I decided to dedicate my future to the Kairos church, a future I wouldn't have dreamed of otherwise. Anyone in the empire can choose the religion they want. This was the so-called listen to this, nobles. This bastard has no sense strategy. It was to expose the insolent remark of this royal bastard in front of everyone. My goodness, did the third prince just insult the second prince of the Holden family? It seems so. As the nobles started to whisper, the third prince's face turned pale. When my mother's gaze also turned to this side, the third prince's face turned blue. He had no choice. The current emperor of the Herfian Empire greatly respected my mother, who was a war hero. On the other hand, the third prince had been overshadowed by the outstanding bloodline since he was very young, and he was out of the emperor's favor. There were hardly any nobles who supported him. He had nothing but the royal bloodline, and he was weaker than the nobles who had the emperor's trust. In this situation, the third prince made a blunder towards me. Of course, even though I'm a noble, I'm just my mother's son. But the situation was different for him. My mother was a comrade and a close friend of the current emperor, who had risked their lives together on the battlefield since they were young. When my mother tried many ways to cure me of Malone's disease, the emperor personally sent the royal physician, and even the magicians and alchemists. And the reason why the current emperor was cold to his own son, the third prince, was not only because the other bloodlines were outstanding, but also because of a fundamental cause. It was because of the third prince's father. Ah, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. In the end, the third prince apologized to me and asked for a handshake. He must have realized the situation, no matter how stupid he was. No, Your Highness, it's okay. I smiled and took the third prince's hand, but this kid, he put some strength in his hand as he shook it. Ouch. I wasn't going to let him win. I smiled and squeezed his hand. Ugh. Then the third prince groaned and let go of his hand. He glared at me with an ugly expression, but he didn't say anything more and turned away. Yeah, why did you pick a fight? Too bad, you could have given him more trouble. I think he got the message, if you say so. Kairos was a bit disappointed, but I felt quite relieved. Right after Lara Holden's birthday banquet ended, Sevenus Holden left the banquet hall and headed to the mansion. It was to see his younger brother who had returned to the mansion an hour ago. Levi. Sevenus felt uneasy whenever he thought of his young brother. Since he was young, when Reveloff had Malone's disease, the two had grown apart, but Reveloff was always a precious brother to Sevenus. But once the brothers' distance widened, it was not easy to narrow it. Sigh. Sevenus sighed softly. He didn't mean to distance himself from Reveloff. It was just a small consideration that started it. When his precious brother was on the brink of life and death, he couldn't show his happiness alone as his older brother, so he hid his emotions, and he didn't do anything happy for fear that his brother would envy his life. He lived so harshly that he couldn't get close to his brother. As a result, he naturally began to drift away from Reveloff and reach the present. He tried to be kind to Reveloff, but the distance that had developed was not easily narrowed. But he finally found a way. You left me behind. Reveloff left the Holden family on his own. He couldn't stop him. He had always been lying in bed, locked up in his room, and it was his own choice of life. But Sevenus always wanted to support his brother. Knock, knock. Sevenus knocked and opened the door to Reveloff's room. Then Reveloff, who had changed into a priest's robe, greeted him. Brother. He looked a little surprised, but Reveloff smiled at Sevenus. He's so nice. Levi, you look tired. A little. It's been a long time since I attended a banquet. Thank you for being with me. No. Sevenus bit his lips slightly as he looked at Reveloff, who seemed indifferent. He didn't feel good when he thought of what had happened at the banquet hall today. Levi, I heard about what happened with the third prince today. Oh, you did. I was furious when I heard that he said that to you, and so was Mother. She said she would see the Emperor himself and tell him about today's incident. Really? Reveloff's eyes widened at the unexpected words. What is this? You're going to tell the Emperor what happened today? It's only natural since the third prince insulted you. Of course, the third prince's words had made me feel very bad, but I had exacted revenge in my own way, so I was fine. I didn't think it was necessary for my mother to intervene and report to the Emperor. It felt like I was a child who ran to his mother. I'm fine. You've been so busy lately, Mother. It would be too much trouble for you to meet the Emperor in person. But Levi, brother, I'm really fine. I repeated with a smile, and Sevenus closed his mouth. He was lost in thought for a moment, then nodded slightly. If you say so, Levi, but if something like this happens again, Mother and I won't stay silent. Yes, brother, I understand. I'll talk to Mother for you. Ugh, what a mess because of that third prince. Brother, I'll go back to the temple now. I wanted to go to the temple and rest as soon as possible. Levi, why don't you stay here for the night? No, thank you, brother. I have things to do at the temple. What, you're working at this late hour? Oops. I have to greet the believers who visit the temple early in the morning. It's the priest's duty. I added an excuse, then Sevenus' expression softened. Well, I guess there's no helping it. Sevenus looked disappointed, but I couldn't help it. I wanted to rest. Fortunately, Sevenus didn't hold me back any longer. After that, I said goodbye to my mother and left the mansion. I felt much lighter when I returned to the temple in Holden's carriage. As I dealt with the backlog of Roval's work, Arhin's coronation was approaching. The day before Arhin's coronation, she called me early in the morning. On the way from the palace to the main palace, I admired the structure that was erected in front of the palace. Is that where the coronation will take place? Yes. It's the first public coronation in Bahano's history. Usually, only nobles could participate in Bahano's coronation, but not this time. Arhin had the full support of Bahano's people, so she announced that she would open the coronation to them. So a huge platform that looked like a stage was built in front of the palace. It'll be packed with people from the royal garden to the entrance. I imagined the spectacle I would see tomorrow and entered the palace. The place where Arhin was waiting for me was the reception room, so I could find it easily without any guidance. "You're here." "Hello, Princess. I mean, Your Majesty." I hesitated and corrected my greeting, and Arhin laughed out loud. "The coronation is tomorrow, so you don't have to do that yet." I smiled and sat down opposite her. A fragrant fruit scent wafted from the prepared tea. As I took a sip of tea, Arhin suddenly said, "I want you to crown me at the coronation tomorrow." PFFT. I spat out the tea I was drinking. Luckily, I still had the teacup on my lips, so the tea didn't splash out. "Oh, are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine." I burned my tongue a little, but it wasn't a big deal. I wiped the tea stains on my lips with a handkerchief. "My little lamb, you look very surprised." "Of course I'm surprised. She asked me to crown her at the coronation." But isn't that something that the regents usually do?" "Well, yes, but I never imagined that something like this would happen to me." "What do you think?" I was very surprised. "I didn't expect you to say that." "Really? I thought you would have anticipated it. Didn't I tell you before? I'm going to announce Kairos as the state religion at the coronation. So it's only right that you, the leader of the state religion, crown me." There was no room for argument. It was a reasonable statement, so in the end I had to accept it. "Yes, I understand." "Master, are you okay?" "Priest, you look pale." Zane and Troy worried about me, but their words didn't reach my ears. We three were standing in front of the terrace on the second floor of the royal palace. And in front of the palace there were countless Bahano's people, and the coronation was taking place on the wide platform. I stared blankly at the scene. "My little bird, don't be nervous." I couldn't hear Kairos's encouragement either. "Master, you've preached boldly in front of people. Why are you so nervous?" That's right. I had said embarrassing things to many people, but why was I so nervous today? Maybe it was because it was the first official event I had to do with the priest title, but I couldn't calm my nerves and my hands kept shaking. Meanwhile, the coronation proceeded steadily. Before long, the nobles and Arhin on the platform sang Bahano's national anthem. Now it was my turn. "Priest, it's time to go." The servant who was waiting nearby called me. "I'm going crazy." I clenched my hands and followed the servant down the stairs. The palace door opened and I saw many eyes. As I walked slowly to the platform, Bahano's national anthem continued to play. Finally, when I arrived at the platform, the people's song ended and only soft music was heard. I followed the rehearsal and climbed up to the center of the platform. Then Arhin knelt down on one knee in front of me and closed her eyes. Priest, one of the nobles who attended the coronation, handed me the crown that was placed on a red velvet cloth. I carefully took it and placed it on Arhin's head. As soon as I did, a roar of cheers erupted from the crowd. "Woohoo! Long live Arhin, the king of Bahano! Long live!" I felt a bit relieved then. The cheers of the people reached my ears and I stepped back and looked at Arhin's back. She raised both hands and greeted the people as if to respond to them. The cheers didn't stop easily. They continued for several minutes, and Bahano's national anthem also rang out like a festival. "You're amazing, both her and you who made her rise to this position." "Really?" "Of course. In this world you're the only one who's this special, my child." Thanks to the relief, I felt elated by Kairos's praise. While I was smiling, the cheers of the people subsided. "I, Arhin Bahano, have something to announce at this place." Arhin declared to the people in a firm voice. "From this moment on, I proclaim Kairos, the hero of Bahano, as the state religion." As soon as she finished her speech, the cheers resumed. I clenched my fists. I finally made it here. At that moment, a system window appeared like crazy. Kairos has been designated as the state religion for the first time. Kairos's fame spreads throughout the kingdom of Bahano. You have achieved the achievement Bahano state religion designation. As a reward, you gain the eternal trust of King Arhin. Now King Arhin trusts Kairos infinitely. Wow, this is awesome. While I was admiring, the notifications continued. 14,522 people of Bahano Kingdom have become believers of Kairos. The number of believers increased in an instant. Just by being designated as the state religion, the total number of Kairos' believers exceeded 30,000, and the number of believers kept rising. Of course, it didn't mean that the entire population of the kingdom would believe in Kairos just because it was designated as the state religion. People's faith was needed regardless of the state religion designation. But it was an amazing feat that the number of believers surpassed 30,000 with the state religion declaration. I heard that the total population of Bahano is about 500,000, so someday everyone will become a believer of Kairos. It might take a little more time, but it might be possible within the remaining deadline. Warning: the evil god Diego detects a faint change. Warning: the demon god Shamir detects a faint change. When I was smiling, another notification appeared. It seemed that the warning message popped up because the number of believers increased rapidly, but now they've completely detected the change. The good thing was that it was a faint change. Anyway, it was something I would have to face someday. There was no turning back now. As the number of believers increased day by day, the evil god and the demon god would notice Kairos' existence. Until then, I planned to run without stopping, to oppose them. The main temple of Diego, the meeting room of the first apostle. In the darkness where nothing could be seen, Tertius stood in the center. At the end of his sight, a shadow moved in the darkness. The first apostle, who hid his appearance thoroughly, stared at Tertius in the darkness. I heard some interesting news. The first apostle uttered in a sarcastic voice. Tertius guessed what he was going to say. A few days ago, the kingdom of Bahano designated Kairos as the state religion. Did you know that, third apostle? I didn't know. Really? Yes, Tertius answered without showing any emotion. The first apostle looked at him for a while. It was a fierce look, as if he was trying to pierce through Tertius's mind, but Tertius didn't care. How was it when you saw it yourself, third apostle? I heard that Kairos was involved in dealing with rises in Bahano. There was no way out of this. The first apostle knew that Tertius and Khalid were there when Kairos was active in Bahano. Kairos did intervene, but the current king of Bahano, Arhan Bahano, was more impressive. Tertius said with an indifferent face the story he had prepared in advance. Then the first apostle's eyes narrowed. Is that so? Arhan Bahano had a grudge against rises from before, and she also showed her skills in swordsmanship, so it was possible. The first apostle and the other apostles of Diego didn't know exactly what happened in Bahano, especially the powerful magic that was there. It was a power that Khalid didn't notice either. Only Tertius could feel it in Diego, so it made sense to put Arhan Bahano forward. The high priest of rises who was strangling Bahano was not a very powerful person. If anything, he was only good at poison. And the protection of the demon god was also within the palace, so Arhan Bahano would have known the location, and she would have easily dealt with him as soon as he escaped from the western tower. I see. Anyway, even though Kairos became the state religion of Bahano, I don't think we need to be wary of it at this point. It's just Bahano after all. Tertius poured his words out like water. The first apostle nodded his head slightly as he listened to his story. There was nothing suspicious, but there was nothing convincing either. Besides, the third apostle can't betray us. Tertius's lifeline was in his hands. I understand. Let's watch for a while. With that, the first apostle's shadow disappeared into the darkness. Left alone, Tertius turned his body in the meeting room, 3 days after Arhan's coronation. I had been taking care of most of the temple's work during that time. Meanwhile, the remodeling of Bahano's temple was almost done. In a few days, Bahano's temple would be ready for use, so I had something to do before that. Officer, one-time draw ticket, 10 pieces, grade. Description: you can draw officers from C to S grade. It was time to use the reward I received after destroying Mazine's blessing. I was alone in Bahano's palace bedroom, so it was the perfect state to use the draw ticket. I reached out for the draw ticket right away. As soon as I felt the draw ticket touch my hand, I felt a sensation of floating and my vision flickered white. The next moment, when I opened my eyes, I was already transferred to another dimension. There was only one slot machine in front of me. You can set the desired branch by using 5 officer one-time draw tickets. However, the grade is random and you can only draw 1 officer. I smiled at the words written on the slot machine. I already knew what branch I wanted. So, I decided to use all 10 draw tickets and draw 2 people. I chose the 2 branches I wanted and pulled the lever right away. 10 officer draw tickets will be consumed. I had no more officer draw tickets left. I had no regrets either, as long as I could draw the branch I wanted. Still, please S grade, Lord Kairos, no, administrator, please give me the power of S grade. Beep, beep, beep. The slot machine spun violently with a loud sound effect that hurt my ears. It slowed down gradually and the grades C, B, A, S crossed each other. Finally, the slot machine stopped. Maybe it was because I used 10 draw tickets at once. The grade that the slot machine stopped at was 2. Wow. S and A. I roared with joy at the slot machine that stopped at the 2 slots. Congratulations. You have drawn an S-grade officer. Fireworks went off, and the slot machine emitted light and I was back in the bedroom where I was before. But S-grade is 1 person, right? I'm not sorry for a grade, but it was a satisfying grade. A smile came to my face naturally. I turned my head slightly and saw the silhouettes of 2 people, who suddenly appeared in the bedroom where there was no one but me until a while ago. It's an honor to meet you, Master. A cheerful voice came to me when I was smiling. As soon as I saw the owner of the voice who stepped forward, I recognized what branch he was. He was definitely a high priest. I didn't know the grade. I'm Abel, an S-grade high priest. Ah, I drew another S-grade high priest. That's good. I reached out my hand to Abel, who was smiling politely. Nice to meet you, Abel. Abel's lips went up in a fresh smile as he shook my hand. Abel was a handsome young man of a similar age to me. He had half of his silver long hair tied up, and his red eyes were beautiful like jewels. He looked like an elf, should I say. By the way, you are very beautiful, Master. You too. Really? Thank you. Abel seemed to have a high tension. I had Alpheus, the high priest, but the reason I drew another high priest was simple. I needed someone to manage Bahano's temple as soon as it was completed. Bahano had many more believers than other temples, so I decided to leave Roval and Aldon to Alpheus and Bahano to Abel, and next. Nice to meet you, Master. I'm Jacob, an A-grade cook. When I turned my eyes from Abel, a middle-aged man with a good complexion greeted me with a grin. He had a hearty laugh and a brown beard. He was tall and muscular. Nice to meet you, Jacob. Finally, Cairo's church had a cook. As the number of temples increased, I felt the need for someone to take care of the meals for the officers. Oh, my new children, I look forward to working with you. Don't worry, Lord Kairos, I will work hard to help the master. Just leave it to me. They are reliable. I opened my mouth as I looked at the 2 people who greeted Kairos. Jacob, from now on, you will cook delicious food for me and the officers. And Abel, I want you to take care of Bahano's temple as soon as it is completed. Actually, when I saw the 2 people, I was a little surprised because they were not children like Alpheus, Chester, and Sasha, but I was rather pleased. I felt like I was exploiting children, but these people were a little more comfortable to use. Jacob reminds me of the boss when I worked part-time. Well, I have to use him more. Nice to meet you. Yes, yes. Why do I suddenly feel cold? Jacob shivered as he saw me smiling. The number of believers increased day by day. The number rose quickly every day and soon surpassed 40,000. The growth rate has been steep since Bahano became the state religion. But sadly, the percentage of the main quest still didn't rise. When I heard from Arhin, the population of Celeste Continent is about 100 million. That means I have to make at least 1 million people Cairo's church believers to make 1%. To complete the main quest, I had to make 80 million people Cairo's church believers. Is this a possible number? I sighed at the huge number that was overwhelming. But since Bahano was proclaimed as the state religion, the number of believers was rising rapidly. Maybe it will be possible someday. There were still more than 2 years and a few months left until the deadline set by the main quest. I have to work harder. Soon, I would have to deal with a few incidents that would happen which would increase the number of believers. Besides, I had to gather the believers quickly and become stronger. I felt stronger thanks to the power I received from Cairo's, but it was still far from enough to confront Diego Church. The most lacking thing was, of course, should I say defensive ability. I had Alpheus's barrier, but that was only possible when I was with Alpheus. It would be perfect if I had an artifact that could defend. I sighed as I thought so. When I did, I met Zane's eyes, who was sitting across from me. "Master, do you have any worries?" He asked me while knitting. I shook my head. No. Right now Zane, Troy, and I were riding a carriage to Aldone. It was to manage Aldone's temple after finishing most of the things I had to do right away. I wanted to ask the children to do it like when I installed the portal in Roval, but the children had never visited Aldone. The children can only move freely to the temples they have visited. I asked with a glimmer of hope, but Alphi said it was impossible and apologized. Anyway, that's why I had to ride this guy's carriage again. Did you think there would be a portal? It was an element that wasn't even in the game. I grumbled for a few days and arrived at Aldone, and we went straight to the temple. It's changed a lot. As we entered the back alley where the temple was located, Troy muttered. As he said, Aldone had changed a lot. It must have been because of the purification, right, I used before leaving Aldone. The people who were addicted to happy regained their vitality, and the zombies-like wanderers were no longer visible. Creak. I opened the door of the temple and went inside. It was spacious, but the size of the chapel and the garden was bigger than Roval's. It'll be fine if we manage it well. Right. I smiled faintly at Zane's words. It would be very nice if we managed it like Roval. That's right. I entered the chapel. There was little dust for the period I left, but there was no interior to speak of inside, so it looked gloomy. "Can you all come over here?" I called the children Abel and Jacob. Then they appeared, cutting through the space. "Is this Aldone?" "Yes, Alphi." I had told the children in advance through communication that they would arrive at Aldone soon, so they should get ready and come over. Wow. Unlike the children who admired softly, Abel and Jacob's expressions were not very good. The interior is not good. Abel frowned openly and Jacob looked around and shook his head. "I have to clean first for the best cooking." "That's right, Jacob. I called them to make Aldone Branch usable. Let's start with cleaning together. Let's think about the interior later. Master, do you have any direction in mind?" "I just want it to be bright like Roval's temple." As I said so to Alpheus, he nodded his head. "Then leave it to me." "Yes, Master. Alpheus and I will try our best." Abel also lit up his eyes. After I introduced the 2 people I drew from the draw ticket, the children were very happy. Zane and Troy were surprised by the 2 people who suddenly appeared, but fortunately they accepted them. "Then let's start cleaning each area." At my words, they all moved to their cleaning areas. They all had bright eyes, but Zane seemed reluctant and his shoulders sagged. "Take it." "Ah." I threw him a money bag. Then Zane's eyes shone, and he moved the broom as if dancing. "Money grubber." I glared at him for a moment and moved on. My area was the high priest's room. It was also the place where I would stay as the master's room, but it was for installing the portal. When I opened the door of the high priest's room, the traces of that day remained. The day Troy's hand pierced the high priest's body, but it was lucky that the dried blood only splashed on the carpet. I just had to throw it away. I turned my eyes away. and I looked for a place to install the portal. No matter how I looked, the back of Kairos' blessing seemed the best. I went there right away and installed the portal and finished the settings so that the officers and colleagues could come and go. Then I suddenly wondered. I installed 3 portals. Then where are the destinations of each portal? This was a very important question. I decided to experiment for myself. I went to the portal right away. I hoped to arrive at Roval first. As I thought so and crossed the portal, Roval's master room appeared. Oh really? I crossed the portal again and thought of Bahano this time, but I was able to arrive at Bahano's palace bedroom. Finally, the conclusion was reached. You can go wherever you want, there are such smart things. I returned to Aldone and smiled contentedly, although there were only 2 portals left. But this is enough. Shall I start cleaning now? Hey! It was then that I heard Kairos' urgent call. What's wrong, Lord Kairos? What's going on? I hear a very sad cry from Bahano. He must have heard a prayer again. I heard a desperate prayer that he wanted to save his twin brothers' lives. He's of a race called Dwarf. Subquest occurred. Subquest Dwarf Rescue Operation content. Kairos heard the dwarf's prayer and wants to help him. Goal: rescue the dwarf's twin brother's success. Dwarf's gratitude failure. Do you accept? Yes/no. The quest window appeared with Kairos' words, and I smiled very contentedly. Even though the number of believers had increased a lot, Kairos didn't ask me for more favors. Maybe it was because of the system settings. That's what I thought. And when I saw the quest window that popped up in front of my eyes, I was sure of it. It was because the Dwarf Rescue Operation quest also appeared in Wusabiup, the original work. But I had no intention of accepting this quest when it showed up. It was too bothersome and the reward was not worth it. However, things were different now. If the quest success reward was the dwarf's gratitude, I have to do it. The dwarves in Wusabiup were a craftsman race that made various artifacts including weapons. If I succeeded in the quest, I could ask the dwarves for an artifact. I have to do it. If the dwarves made armor, it would be at least of legendary grade. So I pressed the accept button right away. I got it, Kairos. I'll help you. Thank you, my little lamb. What for? I put down the cleaning tools and left the high priest's room. Troy Zane. I called the 2 guys who were cleaning the spacious hall. I felt sorry for the kids, Abel and Jacob, but I needed these 2. Alphi, I have something urgent to do, so I have to go first. It's something that Kairos asked me to do. That's okay. Don't worry, leader. Have a safe trip. Yeah, sorry. After explaining to the kids, Zane and Troy came over. Leader, what's going on? Why did you call us? The guys, who were holding a rag and a mop, looked at me with curious eyes. They looked pretty good in aprons, so I couldn't help but smile. Both of you have to go somewhere with me. Where? Zane's eyes sparkled. He quickly put the cleaning tools away as if he hated cleaning. Kairos asked me for a favor, so let's go to Bahano. I went to Bahano with the 2 of them through the portal, since I taught them how to use the portal. Zane and Troy followed me to the palace. The dwarf rescue operation would take place outside of Bahano, so I needed Troy. And Zane was also useful as a ranged dealer, so I brought them both. Kairos, where are the dwarves? I didn't remember where the dwarves were because I didn't do this quest much in the original work since the reward was not lucrative. They are in an alley near the temple under construction. They keep crying and looking for me. Don't worry. I'll get there soon. I heard the destination from Kairos and left the palace right away. And before I left the royal city, I told Zane and Troy firmly, make sure you wear your hoods well this time. Don't make things complicated. Got it. Okay, leader. I checked that they covered their hoods and left the royal city. The capital was full of life today. It was chilly, but there were many people walking on the streets. As I walked past them, Zane, on my right, asked me, so, leader, what did Kairos ask you to do? I'm curious too, leader. Oh, right. I forgot to tell you guys. Kairos heard the dwarf's prayer. He said he wanted to save the lives of the twin brothers who were in danger. I explained briefly. Zane smiled. I'm looking forward to meeting a dwarf for the first time in my life. Me too. I felt the same way. The first non-human race I saw after coming to this world was Troy, who was of a Mont race. As I thought about that, I arrived near the temple. Wow, the temple looked more decent than I expected. The fruit shop building that covered the temple was gone and a wide road was made in its place. At the end of the road there was a temple with a splendid architectural style. It looks like a palace at a glance. I admired it softly and scanned the nearby alleys. Then I found a small creature crouching in an alley near the tavern. Hic sob Lufu. The one who was crying like a child was a dwarf. Wow, I looked at the dwarf in astonishment. He was only half my height, but his whole body was full of muscles. His face looked like he was in his mid-40s, and his red hair was like a lion's mane. And his long red beard was braided in two. It's more amazing to see it in person than in graphics. After seeing the Mont race and the dwarf, I was looking forward to meeting the elves someday. That's him, my child. I remembered that this dwarf was our believer when Kairos said that. How amazing. He must have stayed in Bahano and became a follower of Kairos. I didn't expect the subquest to be connected like this. Hic, who are you? Then the dwarf who was wiping his tears noticed us and asked. I entered the alley and removed my hood. Nice to meet you. I'm the leader of the Kairos church, Leviathan. I greeted him with a business smile and the dwarf's eyes widened. Gasp. He leaped up from his seat and ran to me. He looked at my face and body carefully and then opened his mouth to scream. Oh my! Leader Ack. Thankfully, Troy's intervention stopped the dwarf's scream. Good job, Troy. If Troy hadn't covered the dwarf's mouth, all the people passing by on the street would have flocked here. Calm down. I came here at Kairos' call. Your brother prayed earnestly to Kairos, right? I spoke calmly to the dwarf, whose mouth was still covered by Troy. The dwarf nodded. He seemed to have calmed down a bit, so I gestured to Troy to let him go. Troy removed his hand from the dwarf's mouth. Leader, I can't believe you came to see me in person. Thank you, Kairos. Thank you so much. The dwarf thanked the sky. Haha, I always listen to the prayers of my believers. You're amazing. I gave a brief answer to Kairos and asked the dwarf. I heard you want to save your twin brother. Yes, that's right. Oh, Kairos heard me properly. He's truly Kairos. Can you explain in detail? Yes, of course. First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Kadu. Kadu slowly explained his situation. Kadu had a twin brother, Lufu. They both traveled around the world, and they had promised to meet in Bahano, their last destination. But Lufu didn't show up on the day they agreed to meet. Not only that, but he didn't contact me at all. Then, yesterday, he finally contacted me. Kadu recalled yesterday's memory and grimaced. He took out a small object from his pocket and handed it to me. What Kadu handed me was a copper coin. It was the same size as a gold coin, but it had a different shape from the usual currency. There was a pattern of 2 crossed hammers on it. This is the symbol of our dwarf tribe. If you look closely, you can see Lufu's name engraved here. On top of the hammer, where Kadu pointed, there was a dwarf letter just as he described. We communicate with each other through the messenger birds we raised in our hometown. The coin I brought today was Lufu's messenger bird, and the meaning of this coin is that he's in mortal danger. Kadu handed me the coin with tears in his eyes. The dwarves carried coins with their names engraved on them, and when they sensed death, they left them to the closest person. That was their tradition. I looked at the coin for a moment and handed it back to Kadu. Kadu, then where is your brother now? Lufu is at the Black Moon Lake. Kadu's words made Zane and Troy's eyes widen. They had no choice. Black Moon Lake, are you sure? Zane asked as if he was in doubt. He couldn't believe it. Then Kadu lowered his head and answered in a trembling voice. Yes, that's right. I found out through Lufu's messenger bird. It must be true. I heard the dwarf's messenger birds are smart. Troy's words made Kadu nod. That's right. The messenger birds we dwarves raised remember the whereabouts of their owners. That's how I was able to find out that Lufu's last location was the Black Moon Lake. As I listened to the story, Zane tilted his head and whispered to me, "Leader, I don't think this is a good idea. We've never had an easy job, but the Black Moon Lake is really dangerous. Haven't you heard of it?" "Yeah, I know." Then Kadu grabbed my pants. Leader, please, please save my brother Lufu, I beg you. I don't have anything right now, but if you save Lufu, I'll give you everything I have to Kairos." Kadu pleaded with me, not only with tears but also with snot. The dwarves were a proud and stubborn race. At the same time, they had a lot of affection for their family. I bent my upper body and looked into Kadu's eyes. I smiled softly. "Don't worry, brother, I won't ignore your brother's situation." Thank you, leader, thank you so much." Kadu wiped his tears and snot and backed away. I whispered to Zane, who looked unhappy. "Zane, relax, you know what? Kadu might make you a bow later." Zane's eyes started to shine then. "Leader, you're smart." Troy looked at me proudly and approached Kadu, and he patted Kadu's shoulder. "Don't worry, we'll help you find your brother." We rented a carriage and got on it. We had to cross the northern border of Bahano to get to the Black Moon Lake. As I looked out the window, I felt a burning gaze. I turned my head and saw Kadu sitting across from me staring at me. "Is there something on my face, brother?" I asked Kadu with a smile, and he nodded. "Yes, beauty is on it." "Ugh." Zane turned his head as if he had seen something he shouldn't, but Kadu didn't care. "You're very handsome. Are you an elf by any chance?" "No, I'm human." "Ha ha, I see." I was embarrassed, but seeing Zane's displeased face made me want to act shamelessly. I played along with Kadu's words, and before I knew it, we reached the northern border of Bahano.